7:37.
Everybody rise for the pledge of allegiance. To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Michael.
Here.
Sandy. Here. Kelly.
Here.
Ken.
Here.
Lori here.
Motion to approve the consent agenda.
The agenda first. I'll make a motion to approve the regular agenda as presented. Oh,
Take up.
I'm sorry.
Let's start over.
Okay.
Motion to approve the agenda.
I would like to remove from the agenda the motion to approve contract with William Clausen at this point.
I'll second that. One quick question. On the agenda that I received in the mail, there were 4 unfinished business items. On the one that the audience received, there are 3.
Correct. And I sent you an email explaining why that was taken off.
Okay, all right.
Okay, any other changes to the agenda?
We need to vote on taking that off. I made a motion to take it off.
Motion, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda as amended.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item E, motion to approve the consent agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented. Second.
Discussion. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Open session. Anyone to address the board with agenda items only? Moving on to unfinished business. Motion to approve Township garage yard sale ordinance.
Well, can we have some discussion on that first?
I need a motion first.
All right, I'll make the motion. To approve the township ordinance.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, discussion. Michael?
Well, it's a nicely designed ordinance, very clear right up until the very end. It's a Section 5 penalties for Board of Trustees to determine. However, it doesn't mention any penalties. So is that something that's going to be taking place later?
That's for the board of trustees to discuss it and determine what the penalties are.
So the penalties would be decided right now? Okay. Well, I mean, what are some of the suggested penalties that you might have?
What are yours?
Well, last month it was tabled because there didn't appear to be enough information. I think if there's going to be penalties like this, it probably would be best to table it another month and look around at some of the similar ordinances in other townships and municipalities to see what their penalties are so we can pick and choose which one's the best out.
Are you done?
Yes.
Something, do you have any? I feel that, I appreciate what the planning commission was doing with the garage sale ordinance, but after I read it, I didn't feel that it was what I was looking for with regards to the complaints that we have from the residents. We don't really really have any issues with residents complaining about garage sales. It's more or less the continuation of what certain people want to call garage sales so that they can basically have a private business or a residential business every day. I like the garage sale ordinance, but that's not what I was looking for after I read it. I just think that it was more of a growth issue that I was looking into, and after I looked through all my complaints in there, I didn't really have that many. I didn't have any that were complaining about garage sales, more or less people that were having continuous garage sales. And I agree with the limitations, but then I don't think it's fair with the other residents that do them on a weekend basis.
When I read the purpose, which was Cottrellville Township has instituted a garage/yard sale ordinance due to the prolonged display of goods for sale for extended lengths of time and advertising signs forgotten and left on display past the date of the sale. That's not what this is addressing. And I think we have an ordinance already with regard to people selling out of their yard in a residential area. So I don't think that this addresses what it is that we were looking at. So I think
So you want to table it so that...
table it until we get more information and try and figure out
What do you think?
exactly
Are you
what we
done?
want to do.
Let's vote. We already have a motion to vote.
Oh, discussion, so,
Well, then I would amend the motion to table the township yardage sale ordinance until more information can be obtained.
maybe a second. Okay, motion dies for support.
So now we vote on the original one.
That's correct. That's the way it should be.
So,
Hold on.
one second. Everyone's waiting for her, I'm sorry. I thought you were done.
Almost. Okay, go ahead.
Okay. Motion to approve township garage yard sale ordinance.
Motion was by Michael and seconded by Sandra.
All in favor? Opposed?
Nay.
Nay. Item number 2, motion to approve fall cleanup.
I'll make a motion to approve the fall cleanup.
I'll second.
Discussion.
Well, I talked with Antera, and they're pleased with the way things worked out at the special meeting. And,
Discussion.
yes, you know, the minutes that we approved? With Gary.
On the
Oh, I'm sorry, I thought you were talking about the
cleanup.
I was like, what?
But Gary Bristow, very nice, he gave us the choice of September 6th or September 13th. I personally feel based on the spring cleanup, it would be much better to probably have it on one day rather than two. The turnout was much larger on the first day. I think the hours, 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. would work out great. Again, one thing I can say, and it looks like just about everyone I've said this to is in agreement. On the spring cleanup, almost immediately, the first bin was filled up, and we had to take all the tires out of that bin and put them off to the side, and then have metal off to the side. So it seems like we obviously need one for tires, one for metal, and at least two for other garbage and junk. So I think those are the minimum requirements.
do you have anything?
Is there a Chartier?
No. Nope, it would be free to taxpayers again.
Ken, do you have anything?
When I came over here, I was over 3 times. I didn't see anything that couldn't have been put up on the road that was on this particular cleanup. It seemed like Tony Spatafor and Max Walchuk were working very hard at it, and Sue Biscorn was here. But it was just basically the same stuff that MTR picks up on the side of the road every morning, or every Monday morning.
Oh, I mean, those tires aren't exactly things that you can set out by the road. Also, one person brought a porta potty. That's not something that's taken away. And just in case anyone was wondering, there was number 2 in it. Not exactly the most, not something that you want to see when you open it. There were plenty of larger items that could not be put by the road. I mean, considering it costs the taxpayers nothing, we got a really nice turnout for things like concrete and some of those other large things. There's no reason not to when you got someone, the people to do it.
Lori, do you have anything?
I know that when we had large items, we just called them and they came and picked them up. And the paint cans, you can put the paint cans out by the road if you open them up to show that you have the sand and the kitty litter in there.
I wasn't here that weekend, but from what I heard, and correct me if I'm wrong, it was kind of hard to get volunteers. We had a, lack of volunteers.
No, they're the first year.
This last cleanup.
Right, well, I'm just telling you so, to explain the resources needed. During the 2013 spring cleanup, we had me, Tony Spatafor, my mom, Susan Bagwell, and a young fellow named Chris Baker, just a 14-year-old kid. We did fine. Then this time, we had a lot more people. Most of them were doing things like cutting trees and picking up, garbage along the ditches. All very, very valuable, important duties. But the people actually putting things in the garbage and, lifting, there was only a handful of people. So, I mean, you don't really need a lot of resources. The main thing is just to make that option available to the taxpayers.
Lori, you filled in for me at the last minute when I could be. What was your idea? What was up?
I felt that we could use more volunteers. I was running around, I was going and getting stuff and coming back. The first day was better than the second day. The second day was very slow and taking that much stuff.
Okay. Anybody else have any discussion?
Well, advertising in the newsletter, that's another disadvantage of approving it right now. Because previously, even though there was advertisement in the newspapers, they were still on the small side. The one in the Blue Water community for the Times Herald only printed once. The real key issue is putting it in the newsletter so that way everyone has it. I think we'd get a huge turnout if we could do that.
Okay. Because I have an email from you that was sent to me from the editors of the papers that I advertised on, and you stated that I never contacted them and that you were told no advertisement was given. I also have here my documentation showing that the advertisement was in fact in the paper. It was dated April 10th when I sent both the Times Herald and the Voice with regards to the section and the advertisement that we put in, so I don't understand how you had that. And then plus I also have the actual newspaper clippings of where they're put in. So I'm not quite sure about how we would advertise it, being that I advertised it and Mr. Zoran said that I didn't, and then we have all the documentation, so that's my concern with that.
Well, then, to answer your question briefly, with the voice, it did appear in the voice. However, the Blue Water Shopper, it appeared once when I contacted them. I didn't see it after that.
Okay, but you stated to the editors that I never contacted them and that you were told this, and then you also put it in the newspaper article. And now you're saying that, so that's just,
Well, I'm simply going to tell you a woman named Mary Jo from the Times Herald. That's what I was told. So, but I don't want to argue about something this, petty.
that's not petty to me, Michael.
Well,
When you're saying I never did something instead of calling me and asking me.
the key is to make sure it's advertised in the township newsletter and make sure that.
Oh, now that's key. Before the
I think what the problem is that I was accused of things that did not happen, and Supervisor Fiscelli was accused of things that did not happen, and I don't appreciate that.
Well,
And,
I don't know what, how all of a sudden we went from trying to help,
Well,
having a fall cleanup.
we're talking about helping the fall cleanup, but that kind of deters people from wanting to come and help with the fall cleanup if they're going to be accused of things that they haven't done. And when I said that I was going to place the ads in the paper, and I did, and for you to send emails out to editors and other people, there's 1, 2, 3, like 10 people here claiming that I didn't, instead of contacting me. That I have a problem with, because I don't want to spend my time again making sure that I set all of this up, it gets advertised, and then you're going to put out there that I didn't do it.
Again, I'm not going
I would
to.
actually like an apology is what I'd like, that you were incorrect.
One thing that I noticed at the last cleanup was that almost every vehicle that pulled into the drive, Mr. Zoran hightailed it over there, and when I overheard him talking, he was bad-mouthing the rest of the board. I'm not helping with a cleanup. I'm not gonna get subjected to that anymore.
If I might, my complaint was apologizing to the people that there were only 2 bins there because there was not anything, you had to put metal off to the side. You could not put
But
it.
Gary spoke to you about that, and I can have him at the next meeting, because I did ask him for 3. He specifically told you on the phone conversation that I did request 3. And you're not mentioning that right now, are you?
What I'm mentioning is I
That
heard
would
on the
be on
telephone.
Tara's fault, not mine.
Well,
Or
regardless,
anybody else's.
I hadn't heard it at the, what the correct story about what your role was, other than.
Yes, yes.
Other than,
Because Gary told you. So we're going to move this along and go. Can you restate the motion, please?
yes,
Not you, Lori, she's the clerk.
Well, if we're past the discussion portion, so I'd like to.
Can you restate it? so-
Well, I don't have every word written down because I rely on the tape, but I would also like, since Mr. Zoran came up with the motion, to just restate it, because this is the final motion. Right.
yes. I would like to approve the fall cleanup for the benefit of the taxpayers, with tax-free and with announcement placed in the newsletter
With what dates, please?
for September 13th.
Have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Motion passes. Item number 3, motion to approve sewer bill relief due to water leak in the amount of $195.
Okay, this one was before, I'll make a motion to approve a sewer bill relief due to water leak in the amount of $195.
I'll second that.
Discussion?
This was in the packet last month, and it's my understanding there was a little confusion because there was a wrong address on the bill. What this is a person had a water leak, and the way the township bills for sewer is how much water goes into the household. if you have a leak and it goes out into the ground, you don't really have any way of telling how much didn't go into the sewer. But the sewer bill is based on the amount that went into the household. So what we normally do, past practices, is to look at the average usage over a period of time and then determine how much over their usage in water purchase it was. In this case, their average is 6 per quarter, and they had 45 on the last bill. So that's an over of 39 units. The problem comes in that they're now charged for sewer when they didn't utilize the sewer. So what we do is just calculate out, it's $5 per unit for sewer, which comes out to $195. And this person submitted the bill because we request some form of proving that they had some kind of a problem. And on that is where you see that Elginak instead of Marine City or Cottrellville address. And that's what that receipt is for.
No, it's not at this time.
Well, I'm just wondering what makes it something that we're talking about this month as compared to not last month?
Because I wasn't here to explain it.
Okay.
All right. All in favor to approve sewer bill relief due to water leak in the amount of $195? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. New business. Presentation by Telmar Bank to change tax account from Fifth Third to Teller.
Well, currently, the township uses 2 banks, Fifth Third and Township, for our general and our tax account. I'd like to go to one bank, Township, for both our accounts. So this is Julie from Township Bank.
I'm Julie Gus. I'm the Managing Director of Public Funds for Talent Bank and Trust. We're based in Troy, Michigan. We've had enjoyed
Touch that microphone, yeah.
Okay. Better? I'm Julie Gus, and I'm the Managing Director of Public Funds for Talent Bank and Trust for Troy, Michigan, with a very strong presence here in St. Clair County. We've had the Cottrellville Township operating funds for many years, with the exception of the tax account, which has held at Fifth Third now. So Sandy and my colleagues Bobby Fisher and Whitney Swanson and I have been in discussions with Sandy in regard to consolidating those. All of the accounts are here at Telmar for simple operating reasons, which just makes lots of logistical sense. I don't know how much more detail you'd like
No,
to go
it's,
into.
yeah, a lot of times people pay their tax bills with their water bills, which they can't take as they return them. There's 2 different banks. So eventually, you get the direct deposit.
Right. The efficiency would go up tremendously.
Yes.
Because it's, if you put some else as opposed to having her physically go from bank to bank, not to mention the security of it as well.
And both things I use daily, so I have to go to 2 different. I think that residents would benefit.
And it's my understanding that if somebody wants to pay their taxes and the water bill at the same time,
They have to write separate checks.
they have to write 2 separate checks instead of one. What we're trying to do is get, so they can only, that they can just write 1 check.
Correct, if they choose, yes. And like I said, eventually they get the direct deposit. So,
Now, by having it all at your bank versus 2 banks, what does that do with the overall, should there be a bank failure or something for insurance, the FDIC?
Well, it's my, the one thing I don't believe everything is with us.
If it went over there, if you did move the tax money over to you, what would that do to the overall
Well,
account?
it's, FDIC insurance covers the first $250,000. Obviously, we're well above that, but that's the norm for Michigan municipalities. And by that, I mean, our department deals with probably 300 municipalities across the state of Michigan. We represent almost $500 billion in investments. We collateralize none, because Michigan doesn't require collateralization. So what that is extra insurance over and above the FDIC. What you can be confident of is that Michigan banks, thank you, do have a much more rigorous charter system than other banks across the country, meaning it's tougher to open a bank in Michigan. We have very stringent policies on just the actual procedure. Anybody can hang a shingle in other states, that's not the case here in Michigan. Probably the smartest and most stringent thing that you can do, Sandy's done, and that is her due diligence. She's gotten to know us, she's gotten to know our bank, and who we're all about. That's what I'm here to answer questions too. If I can elaborate any more for you, please let me know. But, through her participation with the Michigan Municipal Treasurers Association, the St. Clair County Treasurers Association, she's gotten to know her banks. Not just me, but all the banks in the community. Logistically, fiscally, efficiency-wise, it makes more sense in my humble opinion that she was consolidated with our bank. Yeah, I think she could answer the question pretty confidently on the financial structure of our bank. I did provide the board with information on our financials. It includes an outside agency, which is Bauer Bank Rating Agency. So it's not just my financials that I'm giving, but their opinion. And on a scale of 1 to 5, 5 being the highest, we've been a 5-star bank since we were created about 6 years ago. And I think that's because of our strong management team. We're very, very conservative. All of the executive management team is true bankers. Surprisingly, it might surprise you to know that many banks' management team, they're not bankers. They're just kind of running the business. We're kind of all over the place in our place. And we're very committed to the community. So we are all in front of, township boards like yourself, very active in St. Clair County community events we like to participate in. But back to your original question, in order to ensure every penny of the township money, you literally have to place it all over the state of Michigan, which really is a huge one. You know what I mean? Break it down into $250,000 increments. There's a way to do that. That's called the CRS program. And the banks would pay an outside firm, a name of promontory network agency, and you pay them, and they would place the money for you all over the country. Michigan State Legislature has made an exception. Ordinarily, your investment dollars can't leave the state of Michigan. With the exception of this promontory group, they can place it all over the country, and that can hence get every penny insured. But it's so expensive to do that in this rate environment right now, you virtually make nothing on your deposits.
When she does go to the credit cards where people can just online pay their taxes and things, are you going to work with her so that it just comes direct to you, or?
I wasn't aware of online tax payments, but is that what you're?
Yeah.
In the future?
Yeah, we do that now, but, yeah, we do the ACH right now, and that's one of the reasons I also want to switch. Because the automatic payments, which would help the general account too, with taxes, maybe we could start that way. And for paying the fee already.
Gotcha. I'm sorry, what was your question?
Well, that you would be there to help her.
Oh, absolutely.
That's a good thing about Talmer, they have a network of people that will help us, they'll come here and teach us new ideas.
I mean,
you know.
can I comment a little bit?
Well, sure.
Because we are one of the few banks that has a dedicated public fund group. And unlike other banks, many have them, but many don't. So I'm the director of a group of probably 7 or 8 people across the Midwest. All we deal with is municipalities. So we deal with cities, townships, counties, port authorities, libraries, that type of thing. Because you are very specific. And we think you do need special attention. You have a different investment code that you need to adhere to. We will promise that we'll comply with that investment code. We calculate your interest a little differently so that you earn a higher yield. We have more competitive pricing for townships and cities and schools and things like that. And we just are more kind of boots on the ground as far as things like tonight. I don't think we want typical branch managers tonight or maybe a vice president for a retail food. All I do is municipality.
Well, prior to this board, this township has always used 2 or 3 different banks for whatever reasons.
And I
You know,
encourage
we were
that.
never questioned, are there a lot of townships that have you do everything for them?
No, none. You mean?
Meaning like, if
Yeah.
you were gonna be the first one that has all of our banking with you?
Oh, no,
That's
that's
not
not, I misunderstood.
That's not all the banking.
It's not.
That's just the
I
tax.
have many CD or Metropolitan and many 5 or 6 different
I
banks.
can brag about your treasurer for it. She's doing, it, like I mentioned, she's educating herself through the Michigan Municipal Treasurers. She is, and I know this because I'm at those same meetings with her, you know, and I'm at these same luncheons and conferences and educational seminars, so she's educating herself. So she knows that it's not prudent to have every penny with the same bank, and she doesn't. So what we're talking about tonight are the operational accounts, where you actually transact the day-to-day business, but then your excess funds are invested elsewhere. At our encouragement, we don't think that you should have everything. We always advise our clients
Okay.
to spread it around. It's drilled in once, it's drilled in a million times that they, obviously safety is the first. Always, always, always. You don't want to be the one that ends up in the paper because you try to get a better rate from some fly by night.
Right.
And it happens
Well,
around.
the good thing about our tax account, the money's in and out.
Yes.
I mean, it doesn't stay in there very long, so.
Well, thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. Any questions? Well, all right, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. I'd like to make a motion that we take our general fund account and move it from Fifth Third Bank to Tom Bank.
I'll second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? I'm trying to write. Motion
There's more for your residents back here.
Okay.
Little giveaways in the corner.
I'll get it back there. Okay.
Item number 2, discussion with Deputy Harity from the St. Clair County Council on Aging referring to the millage renewal and honors.
He gets younger every year.
Good evening, council members. I'm Laura Newsom, Executive Director of the Council on Aging, and with me this evening is Debbie Harity, who is the Supervisor of the Washington Life Center. We are here this evening with a very brief but very important message. The Senior Citizen Service Millage is on the ballot at the August 5th primary. It is a renewal, and that's the important word, renewal. It will not cost taxpayers 1 penny more than they have been paying for the last 2 years. There is something a little different about this renewal, however. In 2010, we passed the renewal of a half mil that was for a 4-year period to renew in 2014, thus this August. By 2012, we had collected enough data to be able to go back to the voters and ask for an increase. We had not had an increase for 26 years. So in 2012, we asked for a 0.3 increase, which created a new question. So what we're doing now is going back to take the 0.5 and the 0.3 and roll that into one question, which will now be for the next 4 years if it passes, instead of having the 2 questions. But again, it's still a renewal that people have been paying for the 2010 through the 2014 and the 2012 through 2014. So together they make up the 0.8. This millage is of prime importance for seniors to be able to continue living independently in their homes, which is what seniors want to do. I'll give you an example of how important these millage dollars are. We all remember last year when the federal government shut down. The Council on Aging lost $39,000 in 4 days. But because the senior millage was in place, the seniors that were receiving service through Council on Aging and the other agencies that received these millage dollars did not skip a beat. No senior missed a meal, a ride, a bath, a program, because the millage was in place. I am involved with the statewide group, and I know agencies that diminished service during that time or had to actually close down for up to that 2-week period that the federal government has closed. In St. Clair County, our seniors didn't have to suffer that because we had the millage. Many counties across the state do not have a millage, and so it works extremely well for our seniors. As I said, there are 7 agencies that receive these funds. Council on Aging gets the lion's share because we do the lion's share of the service. So we would really appreciate support. Cottrellville is one of the places across this county, I looked it up, from the beginning of the millage for senior citizens. You have always been supported, and we're grateful for that. We strongly believe that communities like Cottrellville that care for their elderly and their children are better places to live. And this has been one of those for many years. So again, the choice will be yours. I will say that if you do support this and would like to see services for seniors to continue, please tell your friends and your neighbors, your children, everybody you know, because raising awareness is the answer to this so that everybody will understand how important it is. I talk to everyone, perfect strangers in the Kroger lineup. I trap people in elevators. I do whatever it is I have to do to get the word across how important this is. I called my son this week and asked if he and his wife would like to go to dinner with us on Saturday. And he said, "Mom, are you going to talk to perfect strangers in the restaurant about the village?" I said, "Probably." But they'll go because they also support this. So, are there any questions about this millage?
All I can say is that I was involved in home care for 12 years, and we had probably out of the 110 patients that we had, about 57 of them were continued area on aging patients, and without that funding, they would not get their lunches, they would not get their feeding, they would not get, and I've seen it firsthand, and I fully support it.
Thank you very much. You know, growing old isn't a club you can just choose to join. But it's good to know that when we get there, I'm there now myself, that when we all get to be seniors, we all know someone who is a senior and is getting service, but it's good to know that it'll be there when we get there as well. Thank you for your support.
Thank you. Okay, item number 3, discussion of ISO survey. We have Chief Joe Slingster from Marine City Fire Authority to explain exactly what the ISO survey is. You know, a lot of our residents have contacted us with regards to insurance information that we've been working on in the background, so now it's coming to it.
ISO contacted me. They want to do a review of our fire station, our fire district area, all 4 municipalities. What they have asked for is a map of each municipality. I approached Supervisor Fiscelli, and Township didn't have one with all the new hydrants on it. The last survey was done in '95, and right now our rating is at 10, I believe. Could possibly go down, what the gentleman said, to having hydrants throughout the township now. What they're requiring is a map that I did give to Supervisor Fiscelli. It is of all 4 municipalities. It has a number of the hydrants on there, not exact, but pretty close to what road they're on. The only thing I got from the township, or Ira Township, is a flow test of the hydrants, how many gallons per minute come out of the hydrants, and what kind of plan they have of doing this every 1, 2, 3 to 5 years, doing these flow tests. Speaking with the city of Marine City, they're going to do it every 2 years. When they flush the hydrants in the summer or springtime, they're going to do a flow test on each one. What they also ask is a GPS of each hydrant. And I did speak to the guy, and he's not going to require it this time. The city does have a GPS of each of their hydrants through the county. It's something that maybe we can, myself and Supervisor Fiscelli can speak to emergency management about, is having the newer hydrants GPS for the next ISO rating that they do. They just did the city of Algonac, and their rating is possibly going to change, go up or down half a point. The townships does too, which will relieve some of the insurance burden on the residents. In the process of doing all the inventory of the station, each truck, and one thing that's a factor is having full-time to pay on-call firefighters. We have no full-time at this time.
Any questions?
This map costs about $15 compared to about $5,000 I hear you guys are looking to maybe spend or turn down one of the other. But you're more than welcome to have this map. I have another one. And we will update the hydrants that are on Mayor Road. I totally forgot all about them.
And
Because it's not
Rodridge. Rodridge.
Yeah, we went out there today.
Yeah,
And did the job.
but that's all right, I mean,
Right.
most of it is.
But he, at first he told me it had to be a kind of a professional map.
Right, when he
And then when I
said,
talked to him again, he said it can be handwritten on a scratch piece of paper if you wanted. So we
that's
did it on the
basically the same
computer.
thing we got when they called this afternoon.
So this will be sufficient for what he needs, which would be in July.
Any questions?
Looks like good, very nice map, looks very detailed.
So now, did you want to discuss anything with regards to?
Sure.
Good evening, Zoran with Zoran Consultants, Township Engineer. I did receive the ISO documents stating what requirements that they need to see on the map, and that's why we put a proposal back to the supervisor. They actually did state for their communication they want all fire hydrants, main sizes, valves, pressure zones, boundaries, and supply and storage facility, which you don't have. Normally, for other municipalities, what we do is, just like the fire chief said, we would go out and GPS these structures, picking up all the existing hydrants, the valves, and then show them on the map with the water main lines superimposed and their sizes indicated. If I'm hearing you correctly, Chief, that only hydrants are shown on this map with the lines, no valves yet.
Okay. Just hydrants.
That was our proposal, to send a survey crew out and actually GPS everything, so we have that electronically. Now, this is a first step. Actually, other municipalities, what they use this map for, it's electronic for a reliability study, which is required every 5-6 years by the state, and also the master planning for your system, which is also required to be updated by every 5 years. And it's actually listed on the ISO communication as one item under item 2. Does the water department use hydraulic modeling, which we don't. So this is basically the first step, is to map the township facilities on an electronic map that we can use in the future for hydraulic modeling and master planning. And if I understood correctly, or in my understanding, ISO rate your system based on the number of facilities mapped or being on the correct location, just in case if something happened, so your reliability will go down. And we put that proposal together for your consideration.
If this map is acceptable for this rating, so we've got, what, a 5-year span to get to have you get the other ones done?
ISO come more frequent than 5 years, but the state does require a reliability study to be updated every 5 years. I don't know when was the last one submitted. I have no record of that.
1995.
95.
So 9 years.
It's been almost 10 years since you did the last one.
Pat,
20 years.
Or 20 I'm engineering, I can't do it.
Just because we took that, doesn't mean how to do it.
excuse me, I have a question. Pat, when you did the renewal of the master plan, is that involved in the renewal?
I don't believe so.
That was in 2011 when you did the renewal.
Which master plan are you referring to?
Our township, that we looked into it, because that expires, is that 2016, or is that, I think Parks and Rec expires this 2015, the next year.
It was 2000, it was 3 years ago.
Okay, it was.
And I don't think we made any changes. We reviewed it, but we didn't make any changes. I wasn't chairman at the time, but there was no changes, so whatever.
So it's just-
If you're referring to the planning master
Our
plan,
master plan, because I didn't see it in
I
the
looked at
renewal, so
that.
make sure.
there was a section that describes the facilities, but it was very basic. I couldn't get any information as far as where hydrants, and pipe sizes and all that. Because where are the connections to the 3 other municipalities adjacent to you? That's not shown anywhere. I actually
I read it.
look through your archives and try to put piecemeal things together, just for my understanding of what your system is doing.
And we were going to have, go ahead, Jonas, thank you so much.
What I was informed is this is just a review. They're not even going to come out into the field. They're just going to stop at the station, look at our inventory list, look at our maps. For them to do a full-blown ISO rating, they would come out into the township and do their own flow testing and all that, and look at your hydrant systems. So this is just a review at the fire station itself, and I look at your maps that you supply to them.
Excuse me. And John wasn't able to make it tonight, so.
That's good.
So that's our discussion. Thank you. We're going to move on to item number 4. Motion to approve relief of payment by Sunco Energy to Main City Fire for services rendered.
I'll make a motion to approve relief of payment by Sunco Energy to Marine City Fire Authority for services rendered.
I'll second that.
Any discussion?
I'm looking at the things that, are you going to talk about?
I just hit them from back up in case anybody.
Oh, okay, I was
somebody's
just
not
looking at
clear
all the
with
things that they,
regards to it.
sorry. I was looking at all the things that they do for the community, and they give a lot of things to the fire departments themselves.
Would you like to explain?
I've never seen that letter, and what they give to the fire department is,
Well, the
that I don't know. The training, yes, they do free
They,
training.
they said they offer cause and origin fire investigators, free of charge, first response to gas emergencies, training to all fire departments, and a 3-year rotating schedule, free of charge. The members belong to a bunch of stuff, fire, fire related. And they provide low-cost training to area fire departments, and they sponsor the emergency services appreciation breakfast. And basically, they're just very active in local municipality fire departments.
Yes, they do that. The only concern that I have on that is this was at one of their municipalities, one of their buildings. It wasn't out on the street anywhere. But that's up to the board to decide what they want to do with this.
I guess my
I submitted it as I was supposed to. they returned it with a letter.
With the letter.
With a letter.
There really wasn't a fire, right? I mean,
No, it wasn't. It was, the first one was a 6-inch main leak on Starville and Angling, and the second one was 2 days later at Starville and Angling. One of their outbuildings, which was a evaporator, was overheating. We were not sure what was inside that building. We had heavy smoke showing when we got there, and all we did is stand by and they wouldn't shut it down. We didn't do anything but shut the roads down around that area.
Thank you. Anybody else for discussion? All in favor to approve relief of payment by Sunco Energy and Marine City Fire Authority? I'm restating the motion.
make a motion.
Are you asking for a second, or you just?
No, I said all in
just did-
favor,
Oh,
because you
Oh,
made the, you made the motion, you have a second. So all in favor?
Aye.
Sorry. Opposed? Motion carried. Excuse me.
awesome.
You know. Great. We move to item number 6. Motion to approve Parks and Rec Summer Picnic Event for July 19th with a $500 cap on supplies.
I'll make a motion to approve the Parks and Rec Summer Picnic Event for July 19th, 2014, with a cap of $500 for supplies.
All in favor? I'm sorry, second?
I'll second it.
I'd like to make an amendment to the motion, so that it reads, it's,
Well,
She made
that's
the
just to
motion,
start
so-
discussion, so
We haven't got to.
let's have discussion, and you can add it at the end if that's agreeable.
okay. You know, I think it's incredibly important to purchase materials locally, even if you have to pay a slight amount higher, a little bit more, to keep the money circulating in the local economy. I don't like the idea of going out to a different county or, to get some sort of excellent deal at Costco or wherever. We should try to keep it local. So my amendment basically is part of this discussion. I would just like the extra words to be added to purchase, the materials locally.
I have a question for Mr. Zoran then. Where are we going to find the types of things that we can get from Oriental Trading Center or whatever that place is that we, yeah. Stuff like that. There's no place locally that we can go to that will give you the items that we are looking for as gifts or prizes for children participants. We were talking about having potato sack races and doing little competitions, the wheelbarrow race and stuff like that, and then giving a little token because kids love the little medallion or a little trophy or, yeah, the stickers or whatever, and I don't know of any place locally that provides the amount that we would be requesting at a reasonable price, considering the fact that our funds are very limited in the Parks and Rec right now.
Well, when you made a reference to the $500 cap for supplies in association with the picnic, my understanding was that it was similar to the spring cleanup with the $500 cap that you had for hot dogs, pop and chips. I didn't know there was going to be things like little prizes like that. If you can't find a place locally, that's, another situation. But when it comes to food, that sort of stuff really should be purchased locally, in my opinion.
Oh, I wasn't even thinking about the food. I was thinking about how can we get the things we needed, like we get from Oriental Trade Company for,
I don't think you're able to put a stipulation like that. We're all for promoting the business in our community, but
it's up to,
it's the best, you don't know what the
in the
best
best
deal is
interest of
at
the
the time.
community,
Right.
it's saving the community money.
I think this board's pretty pro.
Facility we have is supplier is Cottrellville.
All right, so can you restate the motion, Lauren?
Motion to approve Parks and Rec Summer Picnic Event for July 19th, 2014 with a $500 cap for supplies.
Can you still? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item number 7, motion to appoint Bill Wright to the Board of Review.
I'll make a motion to appoint Bill Wright to the Board of Review.
Can I get a second, please?
I'll second.
Okay, discussion. Bill, would you like to introduce yourself?
My name is Bill Wright. I've been a member of the community for about 14 years. Just like to go ahead and serve you guys the best way I know how. Participate as often as possible. I find board review as being a good application of my skills and what I will go ahead and do. Look forward to helping you guys out the best way I can.
Any discussion?
I'll renew my motion.
I'll renew my second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Bill?
Good.
Don't go away. You're gonna get a letter. Thank you, we appreciate it, because we've been looking for something for a long, long time. Sorry, I appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Already. Okay, item number 8, discussion on township website.
I'll make a motion on discussion of township website.
I'm under the assumption that the company that Sandy's been working with, and Lori, that IT Right will do our website. And they'll post everything for us. No fee. But we should probably try to set it up to where there was so much of a conflict on our last one that it has to be brought to the office. Any of the 2 or 3 of you both review it before you send it to IT Right. Then they're the ones that will post it, and then it'll take care of some of the situations that we had and the criticism that we had when we did have the website up and running.
With regards to mistakes and human error, I asked John, because we're all for, there's every single committee chairperson I've worked with for us, we've spent a lot of time on them having knowledge how to post their own things on the website and that, and for residents to volunteer and then have to, what we say, have the fear of being sued or having the township being sued because of a human error has, made some people leery about whether they want to be responsible posting items and that. I don't think that's fair to our township. And it happened to me. I hit 10 instead of 9. And I was just trying to inform my township. So what I would like to do is still, I'm willing to take the chance and still the website, but I would take that chance providing that we have some sort of disclaimer so that that doesn't hold the township liable, it doesn't hold anybody liable that's trying to help the township to update the website. I think everybody that's posting on our township website, we're trying to do it as a community and to help the residents be more knowledgeable and I don't think that we should have to feel that threat. If there's some way that we can do it, as far as I know, as long as you're not posting minutes, then you can't be accountable. It's not an official website, but I asked John if we could somehow start the website back up and put a disclaimer on it that, how are we gonna do that, John?
Well, there's no clear answer to that question because they just amended in 2012, they amended the act that said that if you use your township website as a means by which you are used to post meetings and notices, and you regularly routinely use that for that purpose, then it falls under this.
So could we, I'm sorry,
So whether or not, it is unknown as whether you can, I don't know of any particular ruling or determination that if you post a disclaimer on the website saying this is being used for purposes of community information, but it is not for official posting notices, and that you should, contact the township hall or, look for postings that were, and, I mean, there's no precedent for it, so I can't give you a definitive answer, but I would think that if you are advising people that this is not an official site for that purpose, that seems to be a reasonable basis.
Would it,
My understanding is that the township is concerned that they don't have enough staff to routinely make sure that someone's going to be, constantly watching the website for those reasons. That we are a small township with limited staff. Larger township might have a more dedicated staff person to the township website.
If we use that third-party system, that sometime would take some of the liability away from the township, would it not?
You're still responsible, depending on what you identify the website as. If you hire someone to manage that and they fail to do it appropriately, the consequences fall back onto the township itself.
could we use it to where each of our committees and that have a page, but we don't post the meeting dates and that, we just post the information, but we don't post meetings, dates, or minutes, so that way they can still communicate? I know, I'm trying to.
I think again, I mean,
That's not what I want to do, but I'm just
I mean-
trying to figure out a way to.
in a normal setting, that I wouldn't see any problem there. But in today's society, with what's going on in terms of litigation, it's hard to give a definitive answer. I mean, how can school boards being sued because of email communications between board members? I mean, at what point does this stop? But at any rate, my thought is that I think it's reasonable. If you notify the citizens that they're doing this for informational purposes in terms of community events, township happenings, the official postings will be at these locations and not on the website. I would think that's a rational.
And no minutes on there as well, from what I was understanding from the notes.
What about approved minutes? Don't we approve?
But if you don't post them,
But you're posting
then you're.
If you use it as an official capacity, formal
Oh, then you're
official
fine.
capacity, then that's where it comes in terms of whether someone argues whether or not you.
Can the minutes be up there as informative only? Not official?
I would have those items that are official township business. Citizens who are reading that website are notified that it is at a location of the township.
So if we vote to restore the website, it would be just an informative website, and if residents want official documentation, or, not everybody gets that, but.
No, you'd have to have some clear language that would be very apparent on its face of the website.
Okay.
It says this is what it's limited to.
Right.
No official notices or transactions are recorded here.
I just want to make clear, because we do have some citizens who have a Facebook page and they ask for the minutes and they post the minutes on those pages, that the township is not responsible for anything that they do.
Yeah, but people doing their own individual Facebook pages, there's no consequence to the official township business.
Pat,
John, can I ask you a question?
Sure.
Would that affect the historical society? Because we want that interaction. We're really not part of the government. We're a historical society. We don't want to have a Facebook page. Our historical society is so small. This is our opportunity to enlarge it, get more input, have back and forth communication with.
Well, you're not conducting official
No,
township business.
no, so we
I don't think that's
could put
possible.
our minutes and what we're doing on there, because it's not a township business. It's historical society, and it is our way of communicating with people
I don't
to
see
get
that.
interaction. Yeah,
That's
okay.
not a township, unless I haven't done the bylaws 4 years ago, that's not a township business.
Well, you're not posting times and dates of meetings or.
Well, we
That's
post
what
our
Or the historical
meetings.
society, but
Right.
We post our meetings and what we're doing, and
You're no different than the Rotary Club.
Yeah,
Yeah,
basically, yeah, I mean, we're.
What I mean by that is you are a
Right.
community organization that
Right.
performs a community function. You
Right.
do not perform a municipal governmental function, so that's not an issue.
Well,
Should they have a website of their own then, John?
well,
They
wait,
could, but I think that they
but
want to
they,
utilize,
but
We
they
wanna
get
go to
money
Cottrellville.
from the township for functions and things like for when we start doing the ancestry training. So can somebody track that down and say, no, they're really part of the township because they do, I did budget for the
well,
historic.
that's a contribution that the township makes. I don't think that would fall under the category because they're a separate entity. But they're not appointed by the board, their actions are not directed by the board. You know, I don't think there's any governmental function that we specifically provide.
Okay,
It's a community.
okay. Thank you, John.
So at this point, John, if we wanted to vote in that we utilize the website again, would it be prudent to wait for that language before we voted in, or?
Yeah, if you want to review the language that would be posted, you know, then I'd be directing to prepare some language up for your review. The next meeting I can do that. And then you're going to have that in place, you can look at it and
And
see.
vote on that, and then start.
Perfect.
Right?
Okay, thank you, John.
Okay.
Okay, well, I'll make a,
Well, but one thing I would like to say as part of the discussion is, the way it's been explained to me by the Michigan Open Meetings Board, actually their president, Mr. Tom McMillan, and also an attorney, Mr. Philip L. Ellison, is you need 10 days for a regular meeting, 3 days for a rescheduled meeting, 18 hours notice for a special meeting, and 1 hour for an emergency meeting. You do not need any sort of notice online, like you're talking about a disclaimer, if it is not regularly updated on either the homepage or having a page dedicated to minutes, or excuse me, to like a calendar page that was previously on there. So you could decide not to do that, but in my opinion, why not have the transparency of giving people notice to meetings? That's what the job is.
Well, we don't want to, excuse me, we don't want to subject the township to another lawsuit for human error.
and we are, and someone is going to err.
And be scrutinized. So that would be my answer to that question. I'd rather just have the calendar off, and unfortunately,
Yeah,
the
just make it-
minutes, and we can even have John put in the disclaimer that residents that would like a copy of the minutes or the township schedule, to the township.
Well, and that's what he was saying, was you should put on there where it's posted, so they can go there and see it.
All right, so does somebody want to make a motion?
I'll make a motion that we table this until we get more information with regard to,
Because I think you want to make a motion that John might be right, so that we can have a connection.
that was kind of part of the motion. So, I'll repeat it because you made it clear. Okay, I will make a motion that we direct our attorney, John McAfee, to write up the language for the disclaimer and table this, well, we don't even need to table it since we're only discussing it. I would make the motion that we direct Attorney John McAfee to write up a disclaimer for the website.
Can I get a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Great. Item number 9, discussion of township property on Starville Road.
I put that on there, we're not gonna do anything with it, we pursued putting it up for sale, or doing anything with it.
I agree.
Is that the information you're talking about, property to purchase? That was in the back there? Because
Yes, the one on Starville. Wait, what are you talking about?
I didn't have any choice.
Not to purchase
That was,
anything.
we don't review that.
okay, all right.
Oh, okay.
That's the proposed matter.
Okay. basically, what Ken is saying is that we have the property on Starville Road that's just sitting there. So we'd like to look into.
Correct. If we don't have any use for it.
So,
So we can look into it and then at the next meeting.
look into, I can look into reaching out to the other supervisors in the county to see what they do with their property. Maybe we could right now discuss how we want to go about it.
Yeah, we don't have time to sell it ourselves.
We want to use, we want to use someone local, of course.
Yeah.
So,
What a great list.
so how about we'll look into, putting up for sale? Because I have two different scenarios about whether you can sell it and
And not
get
make
money
a
for it
profit
and
or.
not, right, either or. So we'll get more clarity on that, if you read the same thing.
Yeah.
It goes
Both
either way.
ways, yeah. Well, we've got realtors that live within the
Right,
townships.
and
that
then we'll
we
just,
should-
I don't want to put it out, like, for real. I think that we should just contact
Well,
realtors within the community.
What I would like to do is look into what was the initial intent for that piece
It
of
was for
property.
I believe it was for to build a substation. Right, isn't it?
Fire department.
Okay,
That's what
and I kind of fell through the cracks.
No, it was just put on hold until it was needed.
Okay.
You know, it was, because it was reasonable, they bought it, and it went.
With that in
necessary, right.
And then we've been working, the Marine City Fire Authority, we've been working on, we feel that this is a better location here.
Yeah, you're more central.
Right. So,
If we sold that, we could utilize that money for here.
right, and we've been working with several other communities, so to optimize our chances of having a better chance to get the funding for the substation, so. Okay, so that's what we'll do. All right, public comments?
My name is Alan Barnes, I live 387 Shea Road. I just have one question. Every week, we have we're renewing, or not renewing, but we're giving a charge for water leakage. I'd like to know what are the water leakage? Is it something that has occurred on our part before it goes into the house? Is it our responsibility? Who repairs it? And how do we know what's a water leakage? I mean, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
How do we know what it is? And who, does Don Shop fix that? Is that, so we know that that's a legitimate excuse? I shouldn't say excuse, but you know what I'm saying, we get them every week or every month.
Right.
Forget
And
it.
I would, if you don't mind, I would like to respond to that because it is a valid question. And the reason why I put these on the agenda is because it's part of our checks and balances, because I don't want the auditors coming in and seeing that I credited people money, because it looks bad for me. If I have the board saying, yes, they deserve to not have to pay that in. As to your question with who pays for what, if it's at the meter box out, not towards your house, that's Cottrellville Township. If it's the meter box to your house, that's your responsibility. And what these leaks are a lot of them, this was their summer cottage, so they weren't here. So a lot of it has to do with the cold winter we had. So that's why.
But still, is it on our part of the line, or is it on their part of
It's
the line?
on theirs, from the road to the house.
Okay.
That's
It's on
their
theirs.
responsibility.
So because something happened there, we're gonna pay out $195?
No,
Plus, you might have other ones that we passed that.
no, what that is because we don't have that issue because we don't have sewer.
Right,
This has to do with the people with sewer.
right.
Their water, the way their sewer bill is calculated is by how much water goes through the meter going
Correct.
into the house. But if the water's not going through the sewer, then they really should be charged for sewer usage. So if they have proof that it went out on the ground, then
Well, that answers the question.
They paid for the water.
Right, Right, I understand.
Because they had a leak, they just weren't, this was just for the sewer relief.
Right, I understand that, but I'm just wondering, like, if it's on our, if we have to repair a leak, or how we knew it was a leak, but like you said, if they weren't there all winter, and they used all this water and they're not there, then that's understandable. That's what I was wondering on all these things, is how do we determine where the leak was and whose fault it was and vice versa, that's what I'm
Right,
trying
and
to.
that's why I request the bill for fixing the leak.
Oh, okay, well, I didn't know that, that's what I was asking. Okay, that's my question.
Okay.
I ran across a cartoon on the internet, and it said, if you think the United States has some problem with finances, you should take a look at the township I live in. This township, known as Cottrellville Township, is the most biased, stupid, and foolish place I've ever heard of. I believe taxes need to be increased and funds need to be generated in order to enforce ordinance, even if bonds need to be sold in order to pay lawyers in the short term. These are words of our Cottrellville Township trustee, Michael Zoran, on 6/1/11, before he even campaigned as trustee, where he said he lowered the state taxes. He tried to get property taxes lowered, which are government. But anyway, that's from the economist's view of law, but you publicly embarrassed us. And he hurt our township's reputation and so many good people's good names he's just disregarded and disrespected. I forgive you, Michael, for the lies that you have told about me and the harassment I have had, but I will never forget your disrespect. You should hope and pray that other residents in this township will also forgive you at some point for denigrating them all over public media. I have known Bev Kopak to be a very capable treasurer during her term in office, and you invading her private conversations with fellow residents whom she has known for years is an invasion, legal or not. Ellen Jones has worked at the township and an asset to this township, and you disrespect her on your public TV ranting and lies of her attacking a teenager at a meeting when all she did was pat a young lady on the shoulder. Funny that young lady didn't think she was attacked. You and your sister Leah have claimed on blogs that Matt Kowalczyk is an un-American. Could that be because, unlike you, he has a history of service to this community and is an asset to this township? Those who serve never brag about what they do as you do, because inside they know who they are. There is no I in we. They are not looking for an audience. Michael, life is not easy, and all of us have our crosses to bear. There's not one of us who is not dealing with personal issues, family issues, health issues. There is one lesson in life that you have not learned, and we all learned when we were very young. Just because something is legal does not make it humane or right. Maybe at this point in your life, you will never learn that lesson, although I hope for your sake that you do. Why on this earth would you want to add to any fellow resident's burden your disrespect? So just because it may be legal to invade fellow residents' private personal space, does that make it morally right?
In response to some of the things that Kat just said about being honest, and I have a couple things here. I have a document that she went to homes that was provided to us by someone's home that she visited, called The Truth About Michael Zoran. In that which she states that his neighbors have a personal protection order against him. That's completely false. I have the protection order here. Ms. McGuire has admitted that.
I admit that was misinformation, excuse me.
Thank you. There was also, but that could have hurt his campaign, that could have prevented him from being elected. You realize that, right? That's slander. It's actually libel because it's written. But,
Okay, we're just gonna talk.
but that's the point. I mean, things aren't the truth when they're coming to your door. There's a lot of other lies that are in here that he's never worked a job before in his life. That's clearly not true. I mean, I don't know if you guys need his W-2 records before he got sick.
Not in the home.
Also that he wasn't inducted in the Oregon City High School Football Hall of Fame. I have a letter here from the Sierra working team, the athletic director, stating that he was. So I think everyone really needs to take caution with what these people are going to your door and saying, this is the truth. I mean, this letter literally says the truth about Michael Zoran at the top. Clearly, admittedly, not the truth. With regards to things going on Facebook, this little group that they're talking about, I actually saw a post yesterday. Someone posted that he was slimy and disgusting, and literally the only things that he has ever posted on his page is facts. So if they don't like that,
Excuse me, I have something to say right
no,
now.
you can sit down because this is my.
I really do need you to sit down.
But I really do.
Well, you can speak in your 3 minutes.
Right away, it's on, please.
So I'm just saying that those kinds of things, I mean, they sit here and say he bullies, he badmouths, but how are they any better to leave up a post and the administrator of that page like that comment that he's a slimy human being? What do they even have to do with politics? And I have another question. How many animals are allowed in a home for the township ordinance? I heard it was 3. I'm assuming 6 is too many. I don't know if anyone can answer that for me, because there is someone who is kind of spearheading his recall, who actually had 24 cats confiscated from her home that had to be put to sleep. So I feel like if you're throwing stones at someone, maybe you should in fact be honest and integrity, a person with honesty and integrity, because she was running a fake rescue and not actually using that money towards the cat's health. Because if she were, they wouldn't have had to be put to sleep because they all had parvo, were licensed or flea infested, and sores all over. So I really think you need to take with regard who's coming to your door and saying these kinds of things about him, because they are not honest and they are criminals. With the cats.
Is it King?
The cats. Cat, basically.
Anybody else? Okay, go I apologize, but we do have to make sure
That's
adhere
okay.
to the 3-minute rule.
Pretty away.
Okay.
I've lived in Cottrellville over 21 years, and I have never been involved in politics. I resent being called a drunk, a drug addict, a criminal. I have had friends of ours ask us why I live in a township that is so corrupt. And I'm ashamed of living here. I moved here from Detroit to find peace and quiet. And all I'm fighting is my family telling me, how can you live in a place that is so corrupt? If I wasn't at this age, my husband and I would sell our place and move into Marine City because it's beautiful and people care for each other. We can't even have a meeting without being, Kelly, you're so afraid of saying anything because you're afraid you're going to get it. That's not right. That is not political correct. That shouldn't be. And I'm not just an old woman who doesn't know what she's talking about. I organized unions. My husband was president of unions. I worked for a very large company. Matter of fact, I worked for the Detroit News. I know a lot of the laws. And you shouldn't be put under this pressure. You shouldn't have to. There was nothing wrong with our website. You made a mistake. Who hasn't? Who around here can say they have never made a mistake? But I wouldn't be proud again of living here. And I don't want to be ashamed of it. And it hurts me to see you having to struggle for words because you're so afraid. Tell him to sue you. Tell who to get the care. You have a right to say what you want. We have a right to listen to it. And if it's not exact the way it's supposed to be, then that's just too bad. We're all humans. And we all make mistakes. But I'm sorry that I have to live in a county or a township that my family feels is just not right for us to be in. Thank you. And I'm sorry I interrupted earlier.
Mr. Zoran mentioned earlier that things should be bought from the township, locally, the supplies, etc. I believe that's why he went to Saginaw for his lawyer that so far has cost
what VG's was gonna help out with the donations, Kelly, what Michael did, he did for all of your rights. You still have not taken responsibility. You did, when you went out with getting those signatures, you forgot to tell them you violated the law. Not Michael, you take responsibility. And Pat Runyon, you are nothing but a
Address
liar.
the board, please.
She is nothing but a motor mouth liar. She will never get over the fact that Michael exposed her for what she is in town agreement.
Address the
I did.
supervisor.
I did.
Under your agenda, motion number 4, Southeastern Michigan, Southeastern Michigan. How much did we relieve them on? Money-wise?
$1,775.
$775 out of a multi-million-dollar business that our fire department went out, spent 3 hours at 2 different calls, the city, and they're charging the township. They get paid, and we can't be reimbursed from Southeastern Michigan, a multi-million-dollar company, for $1,700? I think it's wrong.
Anybody else?
Kind of along the same lines Joe was just talking about, Dale Markle at 63 Chilcutt Road. I received a bill from the Marine City Fire Authority. I talked to Sandy about it earlier this week. I don't believe I should have to pay this bill. My wife was having heart problems. We called 911, the fire department automatically responds, which I don't have a problem. I spent 14 years on that fire department myself. Then I get a bill for $310. I don't believe I should have to pay that bill. You're already using tax dollars to pay the fire authority. And then you're gonna want me to put more money out of my pocket and you've already used my tax money? I don't think that's right. So what do we do about the bill?
We have a hardship ordinance that we voted in, that you can fill out the form.
I'm not a hardship, I'm a working man, I'm not poor. I just don't believe I should have to pay this
The
bill.
reason this was set up before.
This way, the top.
Yeah. Oh, sorry.
I don't believe I should have to pay the bill. It's already been paid with tax dollars. Am I not right?
Might have to wait for the 3 months.
I mean, it's already been paid with tax dollars. So there's no reason I should get billed for this. If you're gonna relieve a company, like Joe just said, of $1,700, and you're gonna take your everyday normal person and make them pay that bill, there's something drastically wrong there. And I'm finished, you can go ahead.
Oh, okay. Before I was elected into office, this system of billing was already implemented, just following with the contracts that we have. Chief Schleinster and I and several other people have been working on it because we agree that there's something wrong. That it's just about, I would say our average for people that are billed is about, what, $5,000 a month that we get through Acumen for write-offs. Just an average.
Write-off, yes.
We allocated $110,000 out of our general fund for the Marine City Fire Department. That's $110,000 that's coming out of our general fund for taxpayers because we don't have millages. Problem being is that then we have people that don't have a fire or don't have emergency services and that, and they feel, well, why should we pay for their emergency services as taxpayers when that's it? So it's a catch-22 and we're trying to fix it. We're working with Acumed, John's working with us because everybody, then you say, well, why are you getting billed? And the reason why the people get billed is to put back into the general fund for the services so that we're not depleting our general fund for fire services. Just about every municipality has a millage, and we're just trying to figure out how, this Acumed was already set up before I got here, so that's just the way that it's been going, but we're trying to figure out a way to do it.
Can
And
you waive this bill for me?
we have and that's why we did the hardship ordinance. Because Joe and I didn't want to have the responsibility of saying who can get it waived and who not. So the board voted on hardship ordinance to make it so that not one person could say
I'm sorry, go ahead. I didn't
who
mean to cut you off.
could or who couldn't. Now, with regards to Semco, with them, I looked into what the other municipalities do and, you know, what they donate as far, so I guess it's like a catch-22, because I agree with you. I don't care, you know, if you're a big company, I thought the same thing. But it was just a way to get back, we didn't know if they were going to cut services, I mean,
They can.
right, so,
Well,
and
especially when that was brought up tonight, I have a real hard time with paying this bill. When you're gonna give
I
a
agree.
multi-million-dollar company a $1,700 break, you're gonna take an average working person and make them pay $310?
right, and
Something's wrong.
And one of the reasons why I voted yes is because I looked into the amount of money that they spend to put back into our fire services, our local fire services, our firefighters, that the funding we don't have. So that's kind of how I looked into it. I mean, Joe, can you?
They are property owner also, who are paying the property tax.
Oh, I understand that.
So,
I understand that.
They're not getting preferential treatment.
Yes, they are. You just gave them a $1,700 break, board approval.
The letter
They
here,
didn't have to prove a hardship, they can't prove a hardship.
Can I ask for order? This is not a discussion
Right,
portion of
if
the
you wanna,
meeting.
I know, I get scared, but if you wanna.
And we're beyond the 3 minutes, and I don't wanna get in trouble.
If you wanna talk about it, tomorrow morning I'll be here, and
I'm
maybe you
welcome,
can help me.
I'll be
with
there
some
when you guys are
suggestions.
here, that's the hard part about it.
Pick a night next week. I don't have a meeting Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday. So I don't
So you're
know.
telling me you can't waive this?
I cannot personally.
The
We
board
would have
can.
to put it, exactly, through the hardship ordinance that we voted on.
Okay, when are you available?
I'll give you my cell phone.
What about tomorrow at like 4:15?
I can be available.
Okay, can I meet you here then? Because I come through or come home from work, it'll be about 4:15.
Absolutely.
Okay, I'll meet you here then, thank you for your time.
You're welcome. 4:15?
Yes.
Okay, so let me check right now.
Might be able to give you plenty of information on that as well.
Thank you.
Semco, when we had them put in the water lines, Semco has, in the course of proofs of trial, Semco demonstrated that they had their own firefighting capacity, that they don't use traditional methods. In order to put out a fire on their location, they have their own firefighting emergency response team with their own special training methods. So, and ultimately, the courts determined that they were not required to pay into the water line system because they would not be using our water lines to fight their fires. So there is a unique difference with respect to the Semco.
Anybody else? All right, motion for adjournment.
I'll make a motion to adjourn at 9:10 p.m.
All in favor?